Hello and welcome back to the Smoke Room. We will be continuing where we left off on Nick's route. So, if you recall last, I believe they were returning from somewhere, I forget, it's been a while. But what I do remember is that Nikolai went into the bunk in order to retrieve his hat, but he found that it was missing. And when Samuel went outside, he found that Ben, I believe he's a golden retriever, was outside saying that he knew who had it, and he was kind of gloating about it. And when he was asked by Samuel who it was, he said like, "Oh well, you're not gonna like who it is," which kind of means that it's either somebody that they know or somebody important. So it's really up to anyone's guess as to who has it. I mean, we're gonna find out right now because this is Nikolai's route. But yeah, this is also because I've already read it from Patreon. Kind of when things start to ramp up, at least in Nikolai's route, or at the very least, that's how it seems. But yeah. Anyways, without further ado, let us continue Nick's route. Ben looks at us with the forced kind of look that only comes from a man who doesn't really know how to restrain himself. Seems to be the way of things when you happen to show up. But I've only ever been genial. You try to hurt me. Twice. Bullshit. He's not denying it in a way that sounds convincing, but he blusters on. Took you by the hand and gave you a newcomer's welcome and everything. Then you throw it in my face and try to make me look like a fool, all the while you give thanks to these lazy union son of a bitches? He tisks and shakes his head. Grown man still blubbering like a baby. It's a sorry sight, really. There are people watching us through the windows now. I'm kind of glad for it. There's no telling what this man would do if he ever caught me actually alone. If nobody were here, I'd be looking for a weapon bulging from his shoe or his pocket. Nick loves his hat. I feel so mad that I could spit. You took it. He bares his teeth. Wrong. Then he slips into a lazy smirk. But I might have a hunch who did. Okay. Who then? Somebody who has access to his keys all night. He nods. Like the tiger with the slanty eyes. Like I'd believe that bullshit. Shit-eating prick. Ain't the most likely suspect you? He starts laughing. You really think that I got time to waste on something like that? I do. Now why'd you say a thing like that? Too stubborn to think that there could be someone in your group of commie buttfuckers who values the real world over lies and laziness? If you knew anything about the real world, you'd know I care about my friend. I don't care about any of this convoluted horseshit. You're the one who's here after all. Seems pretty clear to me that you know where the damn hat is. Course I do, you bum. I'm just the messenger. Should have been thanking me, really. Where is it? Nick lumbers to his feet and advances on the dog. It's a lot quicker than you think for somebody his size. I see the red in his eyes. Tell me! Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's the boss who's holding it, not me. Nick stops as a worry crosses his face. The boss? James? He tilts his head and flashes me the white of his eyes. No, not fucking James. Briggs, the real boss. You goddamn slow? Oh, right. I hardly ever see his face that he keeps slipping my mind. Where is he? At his office. This late? Whole operation's working overtime thanks to some people. Nick doesn't address the comment. He just starts walking down the gravel road towards the direction of the mine. Ben walks past me, cupping his paws to his muzzle and shouts. You're welcome for the directions, big guy. Nick's still ignoring him. He bumps shoulders with me aggressively as he walks in the direction that he came. Watch where you're standing. I try to shove him back, but he's already out of my reach. I don't have time for you tonight. His walk turns into a jog as the gap between us grows and he disappears into the alley shadows of some nearby cabins. I think I should go after Nick, even though he doesn't seem to want me to. This is the one way to sow dissent. I jump when I hear the tiger's voice, who shows himself emerging from the alley around the corner. I was wondering if you were somebody else. A practical thing to worry about. You grow more observant. What's the real reason Ben was here? The bosses have a skeleton key. They have looked through our belongings during the daylight before. Men have been fired for their possessions. Is it a good idea to keep the map of the mine in your locker then? I have a way to know if they find it. They have not. I don't have time to ask him how he safeguarded his drawings, but I haven't caught him in a lie yet. This is all reasonably believable to me. I look away, watching Nick slowly disappear down the long and open road. A hat ain't worth all this trouble. He knows tonight is the last opportunity that we will have to get the gold. You should watch over him. I do not think that he will go without that hat. Then I'll make sure that he gets it back. The tiger smiles. And how? Hopefully, he'll just give the damn thing back. I lower my voice. But I'll swipe it if I have to. Not like it belongs to him anyway. Good. Theft is the only action men like them understand. By their rules, they have only themselves to blame. What are you gonna do? I am going to prepare for tonight. In case that we run into something that we should not run into. You really think that you can handle what's down there? I have a distraction, at least. But I do not think that we should need it if we can get what we need and leave. I don't know if I really believe what he says, but it's not like we're going to leave that gold down there. If we want to get out of town and stay on our feet for a while, we have to have this money. He gives me a rough pat on the shoulder. The touch surprises me, coming from him. I might have surprised him too by the look on his face, but he doesn't give either of us a chance to dwell on it, turning away and disappearing into the shack. I start to walk the same gravel road that Nikolai walked, in the direction of the mine. As I leave the shacks behind me, there's nothing on either side of me but a near endless expanse of rock and desert. But I can't shake the feeling that somebody's eyes are on my back. Somebody might assume that I'm here to make money off of their struggle. Hopefully not. That would certainly make me mad, if it were me. Mad enough to kill, maybe. It's not so safe to be walking out and about by myself. But I won't be alone once Nick is back. I can see the light of the office on the hills in the distance. As I get closer, the crickets stop chirping. That feeling like I'm being followed sneaks up on me again. But I can see very clearly all around me that there's nobody here. So all I can do is keep walking forward until my feet hit the wood of the office's deck. The immediate presence of another person at this hour makes it just a little less daunting. It's the secretary. She's at her typewriter, typing away until she sees me. Can I help you? I need to know where my friend went. His name's Mr. Kroll. He's a big badger, even bigger than me. He's in the office with Mr. Briggs. I need to know what they're saying. She looks away from me and continues typing. That's a close conversation. Panic starts to take over. You're with Dimitri, right? She gives me a sharp look. So it's true then. I know him. I'm with him. I really need to know what they're saying. For the first time, she takes her hands away from the keyboard. I can do what you ask. If you deliver a document for me tonight. To where? To the library at Town Hall. There is a man there who always stays late. I know him. She pauses. Then you should have some idea of how important the delivery will be. She points at the mail slot on the door. If you use a pen, then there is enough of a gap to see without them hearing. I walk up to her desk and quickly snatch a pen from a cup. Why are you helping me?
I'm not. I'm just thinking no unsustainable industry has an inherent right to exist. Let's share a common goal. She gestures to the door. I crouch and use a pen to open the mail flap. I hear them better than I see them, but I can find the right angle to see some of the both men. Briggs sits with Nick's cap in his paw. He glares at it a bit before setting it on the table. Nicholas King is your name, right? Nick's ears twitch and he scratches the back of his head, shuffling a bit in his chair. Yes, sir. I see. Briggs puffs on a cigar and sits back, like he's thinking carefully about what to say next. The men, though, they seem to call you Nikolai Kroll. Want to explain why that might be the case to me? Yes, of course. Nicholas King is a direct translation of my birth name from Lakia. They mean the same thing. The collie's neck stiffens and he exhales through his nose. Well, but they don't. Do they? Nick shuffles again. I do not know what you mean. It's pretty simple. If they meant exactly the same thing, then they'd be the same thing. You know, Nikolai sounds as much of a Rus name as it is Lakian. But you're a member of the USC now, aren't you? Yes, of course. And you wouldn't want a case opened presenting unpatriotic proclivities to the courts. Now, would you? No, sir. Nicholas King sounds like a hard-working USC citizen. But Nick Kroll? Why, a conspirator pops into my head before I can think of what the actual accusations might be. His eyes squint as he leans forward. Do you get what I mean? Nick puts his paw in one of his pockets, clenching it into a fist. Yes, I get what you mean. Briggs sits back, bouncing against the back of his chair, paws folded up. Then Nicholas King it is. He picks up the hat again. This hat wasn't made in this country, was it? Nick stares. Why do you say? Because it's pretty apparent that the gas canister runs 2 inches thicker than our standard hats. It is no burden to transfer gas from the cans that the company supplies to this one. I didn't ask if it was a burden. Larger cans increase the risk of a greater blast if you encounter pockets of gas. The metric of the gas container has never been an issue before. He clasps his hands and leans towards Nick again. Perhaps, but as new concerns arise, so do new conditions. Who brought you my hat? I can hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. It doesn't matter who brought me the hat. Nick stands. But it does. Somebody took this from my private locker. Take a seat, Mr. King. He resists for a while, but the collie stares back. Slowly, Nick slumps back into the office chair. I am happy to remind you that those lockers and those houses are completely and irrefutably company property. If you were looking for the hand that confiscated your cap, just save yourself the trouble and consider it mine. But the hat is my property, sir. It is one of a very few things on the planet that is mine, and mine alone. And I would like to have it back. Briggs takes a few more puffs of his cigar, head bobby, as if considering. Go ahead and take it. Nick smiles. But if you choose to wear this hat on duty, anywhere inside of my mines, then you can't work under the CSCG, employment going forward. Not that you're working much anyway, considering the strikes that you and your lot are posing. The reasons we strike is your inflexibility. This cap has saved my life more times than I can count. If you banish my cap from your workplace, then you are sentencing me to starvation or a deadly accident. The better we're treated, the more we'll want to help you succeed. The strike, the anger, the instability. It can all go away. We just need to have the money to feed our families and the dignity to live our lives beyond just work. Briggs sighs. He pinches the bridge of his nose and then rubs the bags under his eyes. I have a much better way of dealing with this operation's immediate problems. For a migrant, you are an intelligent man, Mr. King. You have impressive technical school credentials and years of experience without making many mistakes or sustaining major injuries. But unfortunately, you, a great deal of the softer sex, and a few remaining pockets of Europa still seem to live in this naivete of a utopian dream. Do you want to know the secret most of the men who lead industry in this country will never tell their subordinates? Tell me. You see, I value fairness in its most brutal simplicity by letting men know the truth. And the truth of this industrial age is a very simple one. Your life, or your death, at the scale in which we work, isn't just a competition between you and other fellow. It's between you and 100 other fellows. By today's standards, to prosper with a family of 5, it is demanded that we slit the throats of 500 others. He smiles. Genteelly, of course. So we do this as politely as we know how, as neatly and cleanly as consciousness allows. I don't bother re-educating my own mother in this matter, because she's quite happy to live as she does, thinking in her own golden rule way. And, of course, unbeknownst to her, I have already taken care of her 100 alternatives. So, with that truth laying at my feet every day, do you really think that I have the space in my head to give a damn about the life or death of a singular man based on his eccentric proclivities? To be frank, your odds of survival aren't good to begin with. But if push comes to shove, you should try to be the one of the ones, not one of the 100. And if hearing that makes you want to slit my throat, then I've already done you a favor. Get a new cap, and do better, sir. Or else go home and starve. Nikolai stands but says nothing. He takes his hat, he puts it on, and he starts walking towards the door. Walking towards me. I'm still trying to process the shock of what I just heard, but my instincts are screaming for me to get up and move. They're coming. Go and wait in the conference room across the hall. Quickly. The harshness of her voice tells me that she won't even try to help me if I get caught. But the door to the conference room is thankfully unlocked and I don't see the light on. Unfortunately, I hear movement in the room. I see somebody stand up in the dark. Who's there? I expected the room to be empty, but Beckett Moore is sitting there with an open briefcase full of paperwork. He hesitates before walking up. You. Now hold on. I know that I did something that you didn't like the last time that we talked. But I remember just today that I found something that I think belongs to you. I take the brown folded piece of leather out of my pocket and show it to him. His round pupils turn into more of a slit when he sees it. Now, where did you think to pick that up? It was just sitting there in the locker the first day of work. Wouldn't be the first time somebody fucked with somebody new. Show me what's in it. I want to make sure nothing's missing. I open it up and show him. There's a few banknotes and a company ID with a stamp on it and a couple of dollar bills. I turn it upside down and a thicker piece of paper slips out. There is a picture of a big family group of Gilas. One of them has his head torn out of the image. He's touched on the shoulder by a much older looking lizard, who's also touching a Gila who looks like a slightly younger Beckett. What's that? He glares. A reminder. Looks like everything's here, so thank you for the return. Admittedly though, I already searched your things for it. What do you think I stole? Most people steal when they're desperate. I checked a whole bunch more places before your locker if you want to get weepy over it. Nah. I have to admit that the photos got me curious though. The lizard lets out a bitter laugh. Well, it's not really a secret that I keep once folks lays eyes on it. He points at the photo. That's me, my late cousin Amos, and the good-for-nothing spawn from hell who I used to call my twin brother. Is his name Porter, perchance? His lips thin and I can see more of his reptilian teeth. So you met him? He seems dangerous. I'd call him a viper with legs, but I wouldn't want to offend the vipers. What did he do? The lizard's lips pull back into a grimace. I'm glad that you asked. See, my brother loves his secrets. But me, I much prefer airing my grievances to anybody who has the sensibility to listen. How much you know about genetic diseases? Not much. You ever heard of Huntington's disease? Not really, no. Well, it's a terrible thing. You can just be fine until you're 30, 40, or even 50 years old before you get the symptoms. What are the symptoms? First, you stop moving. After a while, you don't talk so good. Then you stop breathing. It's fatal. Sure as shit, yeah. It's all on account that a part of your brain hollows out slowly over time. What's interesting about the disease is that it's easy to know who might have it, allowing you to have the right paperwork. 5 years ago, both my brother and my cousin had a fairly equal running chance for an administrative position in town hall. I'm no pencil pusher, so I had no skin in that race. Never felt comfortable being around holier-than-thou pricks who pretend like they're too good to get their hands dirty. But either way, those two were just as bright as they were ambitious. So I figured that there's not much harm in a little competition between family, right? Wrong. Porter shows up with the paperwork on a Wednesday night, showing off our entire family genealogy. Amos's uncle, his father, and his grandfather all had the symptoms in their 30s. So it was almost certain that he had the disease as well. The truth of this coming out meant that he lost all of his support with the town council and was asked to reconsider even running in the first place. Naturally, Porter got the job. Amos didn't just quit chasing his ambitions, he quit taking care of himself altogether. And when he first discovered he really had symptoms, he put a bullet in his brain. Christ. Me and Porter are twins. We used to be closer than you could possibly imagine. But knowing what he did to my cousin didn't exactly make me feel comfortable around him. I made that very clear. Just know that if that's what Porter will do to his own flesh and blood, imagine what he'll do to strangers. I don't want to think too much about the details that I've given that man, or the fact that I've been asked to see him again. Thank you for returning my property to me. Thank you for reacting reasonably. I'm just here to kill a little time while a friend of mine finishes an appointment with the boss. Can't imagine it's anything good if he had to speak directly to the boss. No, not likely. I am curious why he screamed at you. Mr. Moore? The Gila looks away from his stack of papers again. What now? The last time that we had a talk. Well, you screamed and ran away from me. It was a shitty day, but it still happened. Sure as shit happened, yeah. Sometimes I hallucinate. And naturally I get worried about those hallucinations considering my family history and all. Makes me wonder if I'm just a ticking time bomb too, even if the doctor says that I'll be fine. What do you see? Just some bullshit that won't ever matter. If it doesn't matter, then could you say what you saw when you looked at me? He pauses for a moment, fiddling with his papers. It wasn't you, but rather, what was right behind you. I thought that it was your shadow at first. Or maybe your reflection in a mirror, till I remember that this room doesn't have any goddamn mirror. Your eyes on this other you were too small and too far apart. Then I saw your mouth and your teeth get too big for the rest of your body. Your face would shift, expanding sometimes, then shrinking, like a gas without a form, but expressive and in segmentations like no gas that I've ever seen before. I felt an uncanniness so strong that I almost felt sick. I want to pray to God what he saw wasn't real. but I have the funny feeling that God's still not listening. I see. Wasn't the worst thing that I've ever seen. But it was bad. He looks uncomfortable now. Sorry, but would you mind going now? I'm just about to speak when I hear a door shut in the main lobby. I think it's my time to leave anyhow. His attention returns to a suitcase in the low light as I walk onto the lobby. I don't see the secretary anymore. Maybe she went home? The fur on my neck stands as I walk past Briggs' office and make it to the exit of the building. But I sigh with relief when I feel the cold night air on my face. I look around to see signs of where Nick might have gone off to. Walking down the path, I don't see anything, but I can hear a metallic rattling. Behind one of the dunes, I see Nick hunched over. He's holding one can of oil in his cap and watching it fill. I'm glad that you got your cap back. Nick sighs. He lights a match, then puts his cap back on his head. He turns his head to the stars. This really is the last night, isn't it? Yao wants to get the gold tonight. He nods. I knew that he would. And he is right to do that, of course. I have been stubborn. He tilts his head slightly as he notices the envelope under my arm. What is that? Just a quick delivery that I need to make before we meet up with Yao again. It's how I got to listen in on the conversation that you had with Briggs. You heard everything? I did. Nikolai shook his head. I did not think such evil in the man existed. Maybe he was just trying to scare you. He puts both of his giant paws on my shoulders. It worked. All of it was calm. Calm like a still bog. There's horror in his expression. I'm trying to think of what to say next before Nick steps in closer. His eyes catch the envelope under my arm again. Is the envelope sealed? I don't blame him for avoiding trying to think about what he heard for very long. I don't think so. Tell me what it says. I slip the little bit of string off the wooden knob and flip open what looks like a printed telegraph. Nick's eyes widen as he looks over the paper. Do you know what this says, Sam? I shake my head. The National Guard are on their way. They'll be here tomorrow morning. So that means that we really need to be out of town by tonight. We need to warn William, Sam. Wouldn't he just tell us to look out for ourselves? Yes, but if he doesn't know ahead of time, he'll be overwhelmed. I don't know if I have time to deliver this, tell Will and meet Yao on time in one night. Deliver your message first. And then we get the gold. And then we warn Will. Why in that order? This message is an obligation, not a favor. I do not want somebody after you if you fail to meet an obligation. William will want to keep us at the station all night once he knows that the danger will be in tomorrow. The order of our actions is clear. Go quickly into town and deliver your message. I'll keep Yao company while we wait for you. I'll be right back. He pulls me close to him and presses his lips to mine. I can taste his warm tongue before I realize. And when he pushes me away again, I find it awkward to walk with a stiffness in my pants. Come back to me quickly. I adjust myself, cheeks hot, nodding as I turn tail to make my way into the town again. The library is less than 5 minutes walk from downtown. I go to the back of the building, worried that I won't see the lit candle in the window. But it's there like usual. I slip inside the door, careful not to make much noise. Porter Moore is sitting at the small desk with his lit lantern. His brow lifts as he looks me over, his eyes focused on the envelope that I carry. I have something for you. I inferred as much. However, I'm used to people delivering their own information. How very odd. And how very illuminating. He reaches an arm out, not even looking at me, and I hesitate. Don't read too much into that. My friend, the entire point of me is to read too much into everything. Now hand over the envelope, if you please.
Just one thing.
Don't make me remind you that just one singular thing can vary greatly in magnitude.
He's certainly right about that. I don't need anything from him right now, but this envelope might be the one of the most valuable pieces of information that he can get his hands on right now. If I wanted to, I could probably convince him to let me change my answers from the last time that we met. He's a lot more dangerous than I thought. But should I? If I recall correctly, it was to implicate somebody, but I don't remember the implications of implicating somebody. And because I don't have anything against Dimitri, and the other two, I don't think I need to change my answer. And I think that the other people that I can implicate are Nikolai and Yao, and I don't want to implicate them either, so I think I'll leave it as is. I'm just being paranoid about this. No need to overthink it.
Now then, would you quit mucking about and hand over that exquisite-looking letter?
I shoved it roughly into his hands. He slipped the paper out of its parcel and held it closer to the light of his lantern. He let out a sudden squeal and puckers his lips, letting the air puff out.
Now, this could very well change everything.
He folded the letter and tucked it into his pocket and started packing things into his bag. Where are you going? He let out a whistle and started talking in a sing-song tune.
The timeliness of this message is where the money is. I can't sit around and wait for all the figurative gold to just slip through my fingers. If you have any more business with me, then I'm afraid that it will have to wait. Shop's closed for the night.
He starts pushing me towards the door. I could tip him over if I wanted to, but the sheer pushiness of his attitude had a force of its own.
Good morrow, and good luck, sir. Adieu.
Once I'm outside, I hear him lock the door. It's not long before I hear a door on the other side of the building open and close. I can't pretend that I am not curious about where he's going. But if I tail him, then Nick and Yao would have to wait even longer. I'm not going to do that to them. I leave downtown behind me as I wander back in the direction of the miners' shacks. As I look around me, I see more activity tonight than I've seen in a good while. Folks are out on their porches, rocking on their chairs and drinking together. Bars that are typically less frequented than hip look full tonight, bottle caps rattling the tables as the men slam their fists down, laughing. I wonder if things will be the same after tomorrow, or if I'll ever be the same once we're gone for good. I'm still worried about how William is going to take everything. Yet then again, he doesn't seem like the kind of person who struggles to find a way that works for him through life. He told us to survive, and that's what we're gonna do, even if it can't be here. I don't even have to get back to the shacks to meet either of them. Yao and Nick are waiting here by the crossroads. My best friend looks at me with eyes as bright as ever, smiling at me. But the tiger is loaded with sacks and tools, expression overcast in quiet determination. I know I had my initial reservations about trusting the tiger, but I am glad that I pushed my doubts back. Help is what I always needed, even if my luck hadn't been so great in the past.
I knew that you wouldn't take long.
We did not have much more time to spare. Let us hurry. Though we walk the ordinary trail for a while, it doesn't take long to figure out that we aren't going back to the official entrance. Yao looks ahead of us, then behind us. Then he takes a sudden left off the road. We follow him past shrubs and down hills until we come across a very familiar place. I see the big boulders stacked on top of one another. I can even see the fissure in the side of the rock covered in brush now that I know where it is. The place where Jack took me the first time. Do we have to go this way? Nick looks confused.
Well, no. We don't.
But it is the quickest way to the right path. This is the entrance where Jack almost killed me. Where I ended up killing him. The two give one another a look. But the tiger cuts in quickly, as if embarrassed that he hadn't thought to ask. There are other ways in. Places that we could go without
There is no need to think of evil memories when there will be plenty of evil down there. Nick holds my paw. You do not have to go in with us, Sam. I can grab enough gold for the both of us. I wouldn't want to live in a world without you for all the gold in that mine, Nick. I might as well have died the day that you found me with my head split open. You've already been good to me. The both of you. I look to Yao as well, whose ears splay back. Yeah, you too, Yao. I do not need any praise. But you should take it. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known the right way to run when we saw whatever it was that we saw the last time. If hell wants me, then you're both standing in its way. The only hell that I believe in is in the one that people keep making. When it comes time for us to crawl out of it, let us lend each other the strength to crawl out together. He grabs Nick and he grabs me. Let us be brothers before and after this ordeal. And for whatever comes next. I already consider you family, Yao. How could I not when you and Sam are the ones who have put up with my snoring all these years? They look at me as if they both want to know what's on my mind. I don't know what family is. I feel stupid for saying it, but it's the truth. Family to me means people who yell. People who want the pigs split out and walls whitewashed before the sun is higher than noon. Y'all don't remind me of family, but I want what this is. Just in a better place, under better circumstances. They both aren't meeting my eyes right now. Can y'all just make me a promise? I do not make promises. What's on your mind, Sam? If we don't manage to get the gold after all, can y'all just leave me down there? I'm tired of tasting a piece of something that I might never have. Nikolai places his hands on my shoulders. No. Then he pulls away from me. We will get the gold. And then we will get you. He smiles at me. His gaze is intense. No brother left behind. We go back to staring at the boulders. I'll go first. He doesn't allow either of us to protest, just starts to climb. I can smell the weeds and the fresh dirt that he kicks up as he scrambles to the top, the knees of his jeans dusty. Yao practically leaps up on the rocks, leaving little evidence of his trace as he reaches the top. I don't make much of a mess of the cliffside ascending as Nick did, but I'm still fairly slow and bulky, rising up. Yao and Nick both offer a hand at the same time as I rise. I take Nick's hand first, then the tiger's. Whoa! Together they lift me so quickly and so forcefully that it feels like I'm flying for a moment. But I land gracefully on my feet. Do you both remember the way in and out? Surprisingly, I do. We shouldn't need to if we do not separate again. Sometimes there's a good reason to. I remember. Then let us go. One by one, we drop down into the fissure. All of us have to crouch to avoid the stalactites and the rest of the cavern ceiling. We go left first. But then instead of going left, where Jack led me, we go right. A picture in the map in my head and Yao's stern glares when he'd instructed me on which direction I should go even after getting turned around. It's fuzzy, but it's there. After that right, you go as straight as you can without stopping. You take a left at the dead end, then a right in the corner, then another right. Then you take a left at the T-junction, going all the way straight until you can't go straight anymore. To the tunnel with the big fissure. We have almost made it. What should we do if we hear the voices? Ignore them. He hands each of us a burlap potato sack. We should fill up as much gold as we can in these bags, and our pockets can carry. He passes me a pick and a hand crank. Wouldn't it be faster to use dynamite? We do not know anything about the natural integrity of these caverns, Sam. A blast could cause a cave-in. The work will be slow but discreet. It is the safest way to do this, for more reasons than just a cave-in. We all take a look at the fissure in the wall. I can tell that Nick is tense because he isn't humming. I can tell that Yao is tense because he isn't moving. But the three of us step through the threshold. We hear the sound of running water again, like before. But thankfully, nothing else. The gold veins glitter in the light of Nick's cap, and for a moment, we're more awed by the divinity of nature than scared of it. Nick takes the first plunge into the ore with his pick. I'm terrified. I half expect to hear a scream, or for the earth itself to quake and rumble. But the rocks speckled with glitter tumble down his feet cleanly. Yao uses his hand crank to drill holes into the larger pieces of ore, then takes care of the rest with his pickaxe. I ask Nick where I should aim each time, and he just chuckles and points. It feels like it takes a few hours to fill the bags with rocks. They're really damn heavy when I put the sack on my back. I'm glad my job demands that I keep the muscle, or else I'll probably be struggling right now. Yao grunts as he wears a sack too, and wipes his forehead with the back of his hand. Now we have finished the easy part. I'm too busy trying to catch my breath before I can respond. That was the easy part? The hard part will be sorting and transporting the gold, not only out of the mine, but out of the city. It is too precious to leave in the bunks. And nothing we put there is safe anyway. He adjusts his cap. How utilitarian of you. You are starting to sound more like me. Well, what else was I going to say? Knowing you, I thought that you would consider saying goodbye to everybody the hardest thing. Don't remind me. We can always write them once we have all the money to our names. It doesn't have to be goodbye forever. And it won't be. So long as nobody becomes suspicious of us. If we're rich now, why don't we ride out of town in style? We could afford the fanciest cart on the train. After all this, I say that we deserve it. No. Tickets are trackable. Are you coming with us, Yao? I would like to. Though, there is another that I would like to travel with us. If he will listen to me. Who is it? The tiger exhales. The sable, Chang Fulin. You mean the opium dealer? Yao frowns. I wonder what he would say if he knew that that was the first thing that people think of him now. He shakes his head. I want him away from those people. But we cannot tell him about the gold. I want to try convincing him another way. If he does not come with us after one last attempt to convince him, then I will be content with leaving him here. Sounds like you already expected him to say no. I hope he will say yes once he hears what he needs to hear. Who will you say goodbye to? Will, Cynthia, Dora? That is, if I can face the madam. She was always better to me than she had to be, as loath as I was to be in my position. I do not intend to stop talking with William once we're out of Echo. Maybe he'll come to his senses and work in a better city. We'll see how he reacts to everything tonight. Reacts to what? Rick's called the National Guard. The National Guard? These men are in danger. We know, Yao. It's why we had to get the gold tonight. If Will is present, I think he'll be able to keep everybody safe. Against the Guard? That is a considerable amount of faith placed in one man. Nick puts both of his hands on Yao's shoulders. I frequently place a considerable amount of my faith in one man. Solidarity forever, friend. The tiger's ears flick and he closes his eyes, nodding. Solidarity forever. I stare at the two, who seem to be in a moment of silence. That's the thing that communists say when they agree to share everything, right? Not exactly, Sam. The tiger shrugs. Close enough. The both of us have been sharing you at the very least. True. Nick's brow furrows and he blinks a bit. What? Do not worry about it. Now then, we should think about where we are going to stow the gold before we go back into town. So long as we don't keep it in the mines. Well, I would hope that point is a given. Nick still is looking and thinking a great deal about something. But then he looks like he puts it to rest. We could bury it like Corsairs used to. Without losing it? I would rather keep it in plain sight. Surprisingly, few are willing to sort through a bag of dirty laundry if that is the first thing that they find when looking for something. Let us put them in our travel cases before the sun rises. Agreed. I get the feeling that Nick's sad that he won't get to bury any gold like a pirate would. Very well then. What we hear shakes us to our core. There is a terrible blast. And then a rumble. The cavern around us shakes and grumbles. I can feel my heart thump in my chest. What's happening, Nick? He doesn't answer so much as tackles me, taking me to the floor. He puts his arms and his head over me, burying my skull in his neck. There is a roar of earth and water bellowing all around us. And then there's nothing. Nothing except for the sound of him breathing above me slowly. Nick? Are you okay? I'm fine. Is Yao okay too? We hear a sputtering sound and then a growl. I am fine. We're lucky. What do you mean lucky? He looks like he doesn't want to say what he's about to say next. Cave-ins are often lethal or cause serious injury. Cave-in? I crawl out from underneath Nick's body and look towards the fissure in the wall. It's completely covered up with rock. A part of the tunnel behind it must have collapsed. Shit. I look to the floor for any sign of a pick or a hand crank underneath the rubble. I pick up one rock, but 3 more fall in its place. The tunnel makes a terrible crunching noise as if something is splintering by the seam. You might not want to be so hasty. There is nearly 500 meters of dirt above us and 4,000 metric tons of water in the aquifer above. There is likely another way out if there is running water down here. Considering that there are a great many things down here that are not accounted for in any of the foreman's paperwork. The fact that Yao is down here at least makes me feel a little better. If there's anybody here who could find a way out of here, it's him. Now that's what I'm talking about. We stop talking when we hear the voice. Roger sounds hurt. Roger will limp through it if he wants a cut of the overtime. I know those voices. You collapse a damn tunnel and open up a big-ass chasm. If this ain't the kind of stuff that the boss was talking about, then I don't know what is. You heard the Aasayer. No way know how a river with the samples like that in the soil would have had a rich veins of gold or silver deep down. I want to get close enough to make sure. There's a blue jay and a golden retriever. Nate and Ben without a goddamn doubt. No point in finding gold if we're buried with it. If we blasted our way in, we can blast our way out. He set off the blast? Of fucking course he did. Ben? Nick cups his hands. What the? The dog's eyes go wide when he sees the light of Nick's hat in the darkness. It's just some of the foreigners. I ain't a foreigner, you dumb piece of shit. What with the company that you keep, you might as well be. What the fuck are the foreigners doing up there? That's a goddamn good question. This area of the mine is uncharted. What exactly do you think that you're all doing down here? Don't ask them that. Ask them if they know a way out. Settle down, Nate. Don't tell me to settle down. Roger could be under the rubble if the rocks caught him. Look, I think I see blood. That's not blood, that's groundwater. The tunnel up here connects to the rest of the mine. Oh, thank Jesus. The blue jay looks overjoyed. We're gonna be able to make it out of here. Ben squints and points a finger up at me. Now, you don't make no sense. How'd you get in here if it annexes the marked shafts, but ain't nobody knows about it? There are fissures in the rock that got overlooked. You were tasked to dig this deep too, yes? By the boss? Yeah, that's right. So were we. Nick and I both turned to look at him, gobsmacked by the blatant lie that he just told. Bullshit. It is the truth. He said dig for deep and we could for dinosaur bones. He said that they can be found at the bottom of the underground rivers. Dangerous, but worth for us. Triple the pay. Nate and Ben snort. Now that does sound a lot like him. Maybe you're supposed to be here after all. Nick lowers his voice. Don't provoke them. They have the tools that we need to get out. What do we know about them? Can't tell you much about the bird, but the dog is fucking crazy. If you try to do anything for him, you'll just end up hurt or worse. Nick speaks up again. It is possible to go back the way that you came. We'd be doing that already if we could. I told you that we could. And we're not fucking doing it, asshole. Now, who exactly do you think that you're talking to, talking back to me like that? Did you forget who's leading this run? It sounds to me like you're forgetting the objective of the job. We could barely do jack shit without Rogers, and we don't know his condition. I'm not going to die in a hole for your pride. You think that I'm ever gonna let you in on a job after this if you bail out now? Wake up, jackass. We need to get out of here. The foreigners had to show up some way, somehow. If they know the way out, they know the way out. It's that simple. And here I thought the albino was dumb. You have tools. We know a way out. Why not make obvious trade, yes? We help one another. You must be the luckiest Orientals that sail the ocean blue. The bird crouched down to pick up a hand crank. He started walking towards us, then suddenly stops. His mouth opens like he's going to speak, but instead he gurgles. What? Ben pulls a pickaxe from his body and tosses it idly to the side of the floor. I told this man to listen. You Mongoloids really think you're slick, don't ya? You really think that I'd fall for a stunt like that when the plainest day I see the goddamn black wearing his cap? Briggs would not allow that. Briggs does not want you. He can't use you. He knows it. You know it. I know it. Poor old Nate didn't seem to know it, but he was too busy insulting everybody to know when he's burned up all his goodwill. You're all up to something. Now, I might not know what it is, but it's pretty clear that it's criminal and against the interests of the CSCG as a whole. You just killed a man. Nope. 2 foreigners and an albino just killed a man. But they panicked and squabbled over whose fault it really was. And the only man with the tools to get out of this mess waited for them to take care of one another until he could claw his way out. I can promise you that that's the story that's going to make it to the papers if you ever get a chance to see him. Why would you care so much about legality? So, you're smarter than you sound. Or I guess I should say, dumber, since you just let me know that I shouldn't underestimate you anymore. Why waste repetition on a violent killer? You are a force of nature. Only strength or will can break you. You could try and rush me for the tools. He takes out a pistol. But I don't much care for your chances. After all, I could just miss and bury us all. Or I might be a good enough shot to get you all at once. So, what do you want then? Was I not clear? I want you to try and kill each other. I promise I'll let the last one of you live since I need you for the way out. We are not going to do that. Maybe not yet. But I have a feeling we'll all start to get a little desperate after a few days in here without food. Unless y'all have a good enough reason to turn on each other. Maybe y'all are here because you found something. A whole treasure is a lot nicer than 1/3 of a treasure, right? I think for a moment that another cave-in is about to happen. Something big and stone-colored dangles from the ceiling, dropping behind Ben like a boulder. It's only when I see the legs extend that I realize it looks like a belly. We all stare at it. The thousands of socketless eyes stare back. I feel the scream about to escape my throat as Yao covers my mouth with his paw. Ben smiles a sickly grin from ear to ear. Are we already started? I realize that if Yao wanted to snap my neck, he could. But he doesn't. I was muffling my yell. But as Ben waits, then notices and turns to see what we're looking at, a horrible noise escapes him. Oh, mother of God! The dog recoils, stumbling over rocks and twisting his ankle before falling into the rapids below. His scream turns into a gargle as he's sucked under the water. If Ben isn't what kills us, it might be this. But it's not coming after us. And it doesn't go under the water after Ben. It walks up to what we think is a corpse of Nate. Most of me is horrified. Another part of me is raging with hatred for myself and the monster in front of me, telling me to go. But another part of me wants to see what it does. Wants to understand the workings of something that it shouldn't know. After all, whatever it is before me might be a divinity of some kind. But I feel Nick's burly arms grab me and bring me back. Yao runs behind the thing, grabbing a pick and a hand screw before coming back to us. It doesn't chase him. It doesn't seem to notice him. But for a moment, all the eyes look at me. And I close mine. To be continued. Ooh. I have a feeling that the spider isn't so much interested in living people as it is dead people or corpses. It would technically explain the reason why the body of the dead girl is missing in Murdoch's route and also this route. So I'm wondering if it perhaps uses the body pieces in order to like build itself up. Because if you were to look at the sprite of the thing, you would notice that it looks like it's made up of pieces. Of like pieces of different people, mostly miners. That would also explain why they're I forgot if it's Nick's route or which route it is, but somebody mentions that miners have gone missing. And me thinking that it's they've probably been murdered or something. But what are the chances that it's not that they have been murdered, it's that they were lost in the mine, quote unquote, and then they were taken by this thing. I mean, they could have been murdered and then thrown into the mines and thrown into the river, which fed into the mines, which was then gobbled up by this thing. But yeah, like, if you notice this, if you were to look at the actual sprite, you would notice that it's the arms are made up of big burly arms, which you would traditionally associate with miners, and the abdomen, or is it the thorax? The back part of the spider part is made up of faces. So yeah, if I remember or if I even care to do it, I will show it here. Although it kind of adds to the mystique where you never technically see it except for in when it's teased to you. So, you actually, yeah, you can go looking for it if you want. It's in the sprite files. Anyways, what else? Um, I'm kind of wondering if Ben is dead now. If that will have any ramifications with what was told to Porter Moore. If that will have anything to do later on down the road. And considering that George put up a like a survey asking people about like the endings, which one would you prefer to see first? And Nikolai is the one that everyone wants to see first ended. I think it was Nikolai, Murdoch, and then Will and Cliff. So chances are that after a certain point or very, very soon,
that George is gonna just focus on Nick only, and then Murdoch, and then either Will or Cliff. I think Cliff is the last one, so it'll probably be Will. Um, or maybe Cliff. I'm not really sure because technically William, his story isn't. Mm, it doesn't seem to be following the same path as Nick or Murdoch because technically, although they are not showing the same scenes or they're not progressing with the exact same events, they are kind of following the same type of story. My guess is that because in Murdoch's route, you see Nikolai running through the mine tunnels that Blythe and her friends use, and that Sam has been in through. Um, that's the escape that they will be taking, uh, meaning Yao and Nick and Sam. Uh, I'm pretty sure that Blythe and her friend are not there because you would have probably seen them by now, or maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll actually run into them as they're escaping the mines. It would add to the continuity of the story. Uh, what else? Cliff's story would not follow the same path because he is currently at the reservation, but William and James Hendricks are over there themselves. It's a whole nother things that are happening over there. What else? The only one that is progressing a little differently or very, very differently with the exclusion of Cliff is William because that one he is it's sort of following his investigation. So yeah. Anyways, back to Nikolai. So I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be stuck in the mines, thankfully. And thankfully it looks like the spider is not really all that attracted to, the group for the moment. Because again, it looks like it's just attracted to the corpse of, you know, Nate. That might also mean that perhaps Ben is still alive. That would be interesting if you get the option to either save Ben or let him drown. But yeah, we'll have to see. What else? Mm, I am curious about what Beckett Moore saw. And I'm wondering if what he saw is what you kind of see throughout the story in different routes where Sam is being accosted by a ghost, sort of. In Cliff's route, it's sort of like this monster that kind of looks sort of like a warthog, but kind of big, maybe like a warthog bear thing. In William's route, I believe that it's sort of like a skeletal monster. And I think also in Clifford's route, you actually see something standing behind William, which I think was causing William to be a bit more aggressive than he usually is. And it also appears, I think, behind Will in William's route when Samuel is talking to Will. It'll actually appear behind him in the reflection in the mirror. Mm, I don't remember if it ever appears in Nick's route, but I mean, it shows that something is following Samuel. And if you've ever seen the movie The Conjuring, there is a scene where Lorraine Warren is talking to the mom and saying that when they were walking around the house the first time, that she could sense or see like a black shadow that was latched onto the back of the mom's back, which was, causing her fatigue, etc., etc. So maybe this is something of kind of like what's happening, where either the ghost of Jack, who Samuel had to kill in self defense, or something else, is latched to Samuel. It's basically always with him, and that's why Sam always. Well, that's why, like right there, where he was making his way towards the boss's office, he could feel eyes on, like looking at him, but nobody was there, but something was there. But yeah, anyways, write down your thoughts in the comments section, and thank you all for watching slash listening. If you would like to play the Smoke Room yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description for the Echo Project Twitter page, which should be um down in the description. I will also probably post George's Twitter page because he is the project lead now since Red no longer works on this, and that they both should have a direct link to the HIO page. So if you follow one or the other, then they will most likely already have the link to HIO where you can download it, or you can just look for it yourself on HIO. And I will also post a link down for the Echo Project Patreon, which should give you early access to builds of the smoke room. So again, like I said, so probably in the very, very, very near future, we will only see updates for Nikolai, because I think the update cycle goes, uh, I think Will, Cliff, Murdoch, and Nick, or it used to, because that's going to change. So now I think the story is just going to focus on Nick, because I mean, if you really think about it, it kind of seems that things are getting close to that point in every Echo story where it's like the climax, because also, the National Guard is coming and it's going to cause the kind of the hysteria moment. So yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so also my coffee is down in the description in case you want to, keep donating to me, which I would appreciate if you guys do. It's not necessary, but I would appreciate it. Wink, wink. Anyway, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys at the next episode. Bye bye.